Tonight, when you turn off the light, something will happen. It will happen before you even have time to think about it, before your eyes adjust, before you're fully aware it's happening at all. Your body will shift and slightly, subtly, into a different state. Your heartbeat will tick up. Your hearing will sharpen. The sounds you ignored 10 seconds ago, the creak of the house, the hum of something outside, will suddenly feel worth paying attention to. A shapeless unease will settle in, not quite fear, not quite calm, something in between, something old. You will probably tell yourself it's nothing. You are right, and you are completely wrong. The feeling is nothing, in the sense that there is no lion in your bedroom, no predator outside your door, no real danger waiting in the dark. But the feeling itself is not nothing. It is one of the oldest, most precisely engineered responses in the human nervous system. It was built over millions of years, refined by 1,000 generations of ancestors who survived specifically because they felt exactly what you are feeling right now. And the ones who didn't feel it, they didn't survive. You are afraid of the dark for the same reason you have 2 eyes, 10 fingers, and a brain large enough to read this. Because the ancestors who weren't afraid of the dark got eaten. And that is only the beginning of this story. Here is something the history books don't emphasize enough. For the vast majority of human evolutionary history, we were not the most dangerous thing on the African savanna. We were not even close. We were medium-sized, slow-running, mostly hairless primates with no claws, no venom, no armor, and no natural weapons sharper than our own teeth. We were prey. The fossil record makes this brutally clear. Archaeologists have found early human skulls, Homo habilis skulls, roughly 2 million years old, with the puncture marks of leopard teeth pressed cleanly through the bone. Those aren't marks left by scavenging. Those are the marks of a predator that carried a human being up into a tree to eat it away from competing scavengers, the same way modern leopards handle kills today. For millions of years, humans were on the menu, and the predators that hunted us were overwhelmingly nocturnal. The leopard hunts at night. The lion hunts at night. Research on lion attacks in Tanzania found that lions are 60% more likely to attack humans after 6 p.m. than during the day, and most dangerous in the darkest hours when the moon is faint or below the horizon. Hyenas hunt at night. The prehistoric cats that stalked our ancestors, creatures with larger bodies and longer canines than the big cats alive today, hunted at night. The night was not just darker 200,000 years ago. It was full of things specifically adapted to function in it. Things that could see you from 200 meters away. Things that could smell you from further. Things that moved faster, saw better, and heard more than any human being alive. And when the sun went down, you, soft, slow, nearly blind in the dark, became the most vulnerable thing in the landscape. The reason the night was so dangerous for early humans comes down, in large part, to a single anatomical fact. Human eyes are almost useless in darkness. This is not a minor limitation, it is a profound one. A cat's eye contains a structure called the tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina that essentially mirrors and recycles available light, giving cats the ability to see in light levels roughly 6 times lower than what a human eye requires. A leopard can see clearly on a moonless night. A human being on that same moonless night can barely see their own hand in front of their face. Owls have eyes so optimized for darkness that they are essentially fixed in their skulls. The owl must rotate its entire head because its eyes cannot move. A lion's pupils can dilate to an enormous opening, flooding the retina with every available photon. Virtually every significant nocturnal predator on Earth evolved specific, expensive hardware to function in the dark. Humans evolved none of it. We are a day animal. Our eyes are built for the specific light conditions of a sunny African morning, optimized for color, for detail, for distance vision in bright conditions. When that light disappears, we go from one of the most visually capable animals on Earth to one of the most visually helpless. In the dark, everything that makes human intelligence powerful becomes less useful. You cannot read the environment. You cannot see the threat coming. You cannot judge distance or direction. The primary sense through which human beings navigate the world, the sense that accounts for roughly 80% of all information we take in, switches off, and something else switches on. Deep in the middle of your brain, behind the eyes, beneath the cortex, there is a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. It is ancient, far older than the parts of your brain that think, reason, plan, and speak. It is the part of your brain that decides whether something is dangerous before the thinking part has even had time to form a question. When light disappears, the amygdala activates. This is not a metaphor. It is a measurable, documented, reproducible biological event. A 2021 study published in PLOS One used brain scanning technology to monitor amygdala activity while participants were exposed to alternating periods of light and darkness. The results were stark. Light suppressed amygdala activity. Darkness amplified it significantly. The researchers found a direct pathway from light-sensitive cells in the retina, special cells that don't contribute to vision at all, but exist solely to measure light levels. Running straight to the amygdala, your brain has a dedicated circuit that connects the absence of light directly to the center of your fear response. This is not wiring you developed. It is not something you learned from scary movies or childhood nightmares. It is built into the physical structure of your brain, and it functions the same way in every human being on Earth, regardless of culture, background, or experience. When the lights go out, your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, the part that tells you everything is fine, the part that knows there is no predator in your bedroom, loses some of its influence over the amygdala. The connection between them weakens, the emotional alarm center is less supervised, and it runs hotter. This is why fears that feel manageable during the day can feel enormous at night. It is not that the fear is worse, it is that the part of your brain responsible for calming it down has been partially disconnected. The darkness literally impairs your ability to feel rational. Every person who has ever stared at a ceiling at 3 a.m. knowing intellectually that they are safe and feeling afraid anyway has experienced this. It is not weakness, it is the circuit doing exactly what it was built to do. Here is something interesting about the fear of darkness. It is technically a mistake, almost always. When you hear a sound in a dark room and your heart rate spikes 999 times out of 1,000, it is not a predator. It is the house settling. It is the refrigerator. It is your own imagination filling the space that your eyes have left empty. The fear response fires and nothing happens, and you feel slightly foolish. Psychologists have a name for why this keeps happening anyway. It is called error management theory. And the logic behind it is simple. When your brain evaluates a potential threat in the dark, it faces two possible mistakes. The first is a false positive. You hear a rustle, you assume it's a predator, you react, and it turns out to be nothing. The cost of that mistake is a few seconds of adrenaline and mild embarrassment. The second mistake is a false negative. You hear a rustle, you assume it's nothing, you don't react, and it is actually a leopard. The cost of that mistake is your life. Given those two options, the brain has been ruthlessly optimized over millions of years to always make the first mistake and never the second, to overdetect threat rather than underdetect it, to see danger in the shadows even when the shadows are empty. Your brain would rather scare you 10,000 times over nothing than miss the one time something is actually there. This is why the dark fills with shapes, why the corner of the room seems to move, why the sound from 2 floors down feels, for just 1 second, like it might be something coming. Your brain is not broken. Your brain is doing its job, the job it was specifically built to do, with a precision and a consistency that has kept your ancestors alive for 2 million years. The predators are gone. The circuit that watched for them is still running. For almost all of human history, there was only one answer to the darkness. Only one technology that pushed back the night and gave our ancestors any foothold against the predators that owned it: fire. Evidence suggests humans were using naturally occurring fire, carrying embers from lightning-ignited wildfires as far back as 1 million years ago. By 400,000 years ago, we had learned to make it ourselves. A hearth in the dark was not comfort. It was a weapon. Predators fear fire in a way they fear almost nothing else. A circle of firelight was a boundary that most nocturnal hunters would not cross. Sleeping around a fire meant waking up alive, but fire did something else. Something that goes beyond the practical, beyond mere predator deterrence. Fire changed what the night meant. Before fire, nightfall meant hiding, going still, pressing into rock and waiting for the sun. After fire, nightfall meant gathering. The hearth became the social center of early human life in a way that had never been possible before. When the day's dangers retreated to the edge of the firelight, humans had, for the first time in their evolutionary history, a period of relative safety in which they could do things other than survive. They could talk, they could tell stories, they could consolidate the day's experience, share knowledge, knowledge, reinforce the bonds of the group. Some anthropologists believe that the campfire is where human language accelerated, where complex thought deepened, where the earliest forms of culture, the stories, the rituals, the explanations for the terrifying and the inexplicable, first took shape, not in the daylight, when there was work to do and danger to watch for, in the brief, warm, fire-lit pocket of safety that our ancestors carved out of the dark every single night for 100,000 years. The fear drove us together, and together we built everything else. So why, after electric lights and city streets, and a world almost entirely stripped of nocturnal predators, does the fear remain? Because evolution does not clean up after itself. The wiring that made darkness dangerous to your ancestors was installed over millions of years. The predators that made it necessary disappeared from most of your daily environment a few hundred years ago, at most. A few hundred years is nothing in evolutionary time. It is a rounding error. The circuit is still there because there has not been nearly enough time and not enough selection pressure for it to go away. The absence of lions in your city does not teach your amygdala that there are no lions. Your amygdala does not learn from the absence of evidence. It learns from the presence of it. And the presence of evidence, 2 million years of ancestors being killed in the dark, is baked so deeply into the architecture of your brain that no amount of streetlights will touch it. What changes over generations is how the fear expresses itself. When the real predators vanished, the fear did not disappear. It found new shapes to fill. Monsters, ghosts, intruders, the shapeless something that might be in the room. We replaced the leopard with whatever our imaginations could produce, because the circuit that watches for predators needs something to watch for. And if nothing real is available, it will manufacture something. This is why every culture on Earth in every era of history has populated the darkness with creatures. Not because those creatures are real, because the part of the brain that looks for predators in the dark has to look for something. And in a world without predators, it looks for whatever the culture around it has provided. Your monsters are the leopard's shadow, wearing a different face. Tonight, when you turn off the light and that old feeling settles in, the sharpened hearing, the slight acceleration of the heart, the sense that the dark room is a different room than the lit one, you will know what it is. It is not weakness. It is not irrationality. It is not something wrong with you. It is 2 million years of survival looking out for you. It is the accumulated experience of every ancestor who felt that exact same feeling, took it seriously, and lived to pass it on. It is the most tested, most proven, most successful fear response in the history of your species. The darkness is safe now. Your brain just doesn't know it yet. And honestly, after everything your ancestors went through to keep you here, you can forgive it for being cautious. That's all for today. If this made the dark feel a little different tonight, subscribe and consider supporting the channel.